This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, good morning. This is the Monday, January the 13th, 2025 ACLB board meeting. I think that we're ready to call the meeting to order and verify the quorum. Is that correct, Chad? Can we do that?
We can, Jeff. All right. Attendance wise, Jeff. Oh,
Here.
I'm sorry. Did you state the time, Jeff, real quick?
Oh, I apologize. I thought I did. It's 11:02 a.m. on January the 13th, 2025.
9:02?
Oh, excuse me. Geez. Yes.
Okay.
Long morning.
9:02 a.m. Sorry. Attendance, Jeff,
Yes, here.
Lori,
Here.
Kathy,
Here.
Annie,
Here.
Julie.
I don't see
Julie
her.
is not in yet. Owen
I'm here.
and Ed.
Here.
Wonderful. Okay, that's 6 out of 7. We do have a quorum. Staff in attendance today, we have myself, Chad Cook. We have our counsel, Raul Ramirez. We have investigators, Danny Fry and Dan Murphy. And we have Paul Lindsay on with us as well for budget.
Perfect. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. At this point, I think we want to see if there's any members of the public that want to that have anything that they'd like to bring to the attention of the board. If there's anybody that's there, please make yourself known.
Mr. Chair, this is Scott DiBiasio with the Appraisal Institute, if I may.
You betcha. Just before you start, Scott, we try and keep it to about a 5-minute, if you don't mind, for your any type of a testimony or input that you would like to add. But please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. And then I assure you this will not take 5 minutes. Actually, my input is actually more in the form of a question, which is to ask where the discussion regarding Perea stands. And I apologize, perhaps I missed a meeting or missed something that I don't know where that stands. But I just wanted to see where that conversation stood. I believe at the October meeting, there was some additional discussion, but I'm not 100% sure. So I just wanted to, perhaps this is a question better for Mr. Koch. I'm not sure, but just wanted to see where that all stood.
I can field that, Jeff, if you want me to.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for the question, Scott. So yes, as I understood it at the last board meeting, I was given instruction to examine our policies and procedures and administrative rule for ways to adopt Perea that might include our current process, which includes an experience audit of work product. That's part of the existing, prior to Perea. That pathway to licensure. So essentially, that's where it stands. That is in process. Essentially, at this point, it's on me. We had the end of the year closeout stuff. We had a number of projects that came to the conclusion here at the end of December. That'll be part of my administrator's update here later on in the meeting. But yes, that essentially is the case. At the moment, I am working on policy. So my hope is to have that done fairly shortly here. My hope was actually that the timeline would be to have something for the board members today. That just didn't work out for a number of reasons toward the end of last year.
Great. Thank you very much for that information. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Is there anybody else in the public that wishes to say anything? Okay, I guess barring no more discussion for public input, we'll go ahead and move on, Chad, to the action items. The adoption of the October 21st, 2024 board meeting minutes.
Perfect. All right. So for adoption, we would need a motion and then a second as well. Sorry.
I'll move to adopt.
I'll go ahead and second that motion.
And Jeff. All right. Attendance. Jeff.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Annie.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
And Ed.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Julie DeGlow is again absent.
Okay. Perfect. I think then we go ahead and move on to the new business. talk about the Sarah's grant. And I think that's going to be, doesn't have your name, but I'm going to say that's probably you, Chad, to go ahead and tell us about that.
That is my typo on the agenda, Jeff. I'm sorry. So yes, this is essentially, as you all know, we were awarded the first year of the SARAS grant funds from the ASC. And in order to implement those funds, there's certain guidelines and things that we as a state agency have to maintain for funds management, reporting, transparency, those kinds of things. This is essentially from the Oregon Accounting Manual, the federal funds management section of that policy, and it's related to reporting with certain thresholds. And the amount of this grant does, for most humans, this is a significant sum of money. But in terms of government funding, this is a relatively small grant, so it doesn't actually meet any of the federal serious reporting thresholds. Essentially, I went through the OAM, the Oregon Accounting Manual for public accounting, and this was the section that most closely pertained to what they're looking for from us. So this is the policy, essentially, that I've got before you folks, so that we can start using, allocating all of that grant funds.
Pretty cool.
So that would be, at this point, because it's policy, if you want to have a motion and adopt or discussion.
Absolutely. I guess that we should go ahead and break this over to the board. Is there any discussion on the policy or the funds?
My understanding is that we don't really have much opportunity to levy input on the policy since the federal accounting standard. Isn't that right, Chad?
Generally speaking, yeah. We do have a little bit of flexibility and leeway as far as state processes go because of our semi-independent board status. We don't have quite such strict constant reporting requirements that a general fund agency would, but as it relates to federal use of funds and reporting back to those folks, this is essentially what the state of Oregon has in place that meets those standards.
But as I asked the question, I did read through the standards and I don't have any objection anywhere in there anyway. So sorry for even bringing it up.
Is there anybody else on the board? Questions? All right. I'm looking to see, did Lindsay make it, Chad? Excuse me.
Paul is here, but Jeff, we still haven't had a motion or an adoption of that, the policy from the OAM.
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
We need to bring this up for a motion then to adopt this reporting management policy. So I'll be specific. Is there a motion to adopt the SARS grant federal funds management and reporting policy?
So moved.
All right.
Second.
And Annie with the second. Jeff.
Yes.
Lori.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Annie.
Yes.
I still don't see Julie in, so Owen.
Yeah.
She's right here.
Oh, Julie, you are here. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we can vote, sorry about that. Before you can vote, we've got to verify your attendance. I guess we just did that essentially. Raul, do you see any issue with continuing the vote?
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So continuing voting for the policy. Julie.
Yes.
Owen.
Yes.
And Ed.
Yes.
All right. And let the record reflect that Julie DeGlow joined the meeting at 9:10 a.m.
Perfect. Okay, well then we're going to go ahead and move on to the old business. I think since Paul's not here, Chad, you're going to be doing this as far as the budget report.
I'm here. I am here, Jeff.
Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
Oh, I gladly pass it on. Well, good day, everybody. Working on the budget. We are still coming in with a shortfall. No surprise to me. We've seen this was coming. We will continue watching. Chad has already made some changes to our expenses regarding some savings to even finish out this biennium. The next biennium budget is being developed as we speak. I am waiting for some information to come in through DAS. So in that April meeting, we will have a proposed budget, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be very tight for us, just because of what is happening at this point in time with our income, and we get no funding from the state. Well, all I can do is keep an eye on it, try my best to forecast correctly, but I'm trying to pinpoint exactly what it's going to cost us for all of our state fees we have from DAS. Anybody has any concern, feel free to contact me. I can look it up to see what we can find out, but overall, we're going to be safe. We have a reserve. If we do have to touch it, I don't know if we will or will not have to at this point, because we did carry forward 60,000 from last biennium. So we'll just have to keep a close eye on it, and I'll work with Chad and Ed, especially towards the developing completion of the budget, so we're ready for April's meeting. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul. Kathy, did you have a question? Want to recognize you?
I did, thank you. I just wanted to get a clarification on the budget. Can somebody explain what the deferred revenue is?
Paul?
Yes, I am looking to see where she's seeing the deferred. I think it's just
Let me see if I can find it here really quick.
yeah.
I was going through it this morning. It's on the balance sheet under total accounts payable deferred revenue.
It's things that have not cleared the systems completely. Either the bank hasn't cleared it, so it's still pending and passing through. I've showed the charge, but it has not cleared our bank yet, which takes a while.
That seems like a really high number to have not cleared the bank yet. What is included in that, though, is the question. So
I think on this one here, I can go into it, Kathy, make sure with you. I think a big chunk is going to be my payroll still. DAS payroll came in all at once.
We had 3 months, you know.
Okay.
So I issued the check, but it has not cleared my bank yet. And our payroll is 50-some thousand per month.
Okay, so that number will come down significantly once that clears the bank. Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. If there's no other questions, then we're going to move on to licensing and the AMC report. Chad, go ahead.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so here are the numbers as of the end of the last quarter, December 31st here, 2024. As you can all see, we've been experiencing, I think it's no surprise to anybody, a declining overall trend in the number of active certified, active appraisers, period, in the state here over the last, if you look at these numbers, we're about 100 lower overall than we population-wise than we were in 2019. So as of December 31st, we have 610 certified general appraisers, and that number is on the increase, as was pointed out actually in October. That is a recent trend. The number of certified generals has been increasing over the last year or two. So 610 certified general appraisers, 600 certified residential appraisers, and the number of state licensed appraisers has declined significantly since 2019. It is currently at 120 for a total population of active appraisers of 1,330 as of December 31st. As of that date, inactive appraisers, we had 23 certified general inactives, 28 certified residential inactive appraisers, and 18 inactive state licensed appraisers for a total of 69. Appraiser assistants, as of the end of last year, are counted at 67. Now, if you look at that trend over the course of the reported numbers here, that's about half what we saw in 2019, which is an indicator, folks. That's a little making me a little nervous. But the bottom line being that with the lower volume of work, I think it's pretty reasonable to connect that to the fact that a lot of appraisers use work to train their registered assistants, and with the volume of work being significantly lower over the years here, that's probably what's reflected in those assistantship numbers, just as people aren't able to keep others busy and have to let folks go, or as appraisers move through the process and we don't get new ones because, again, the market's not really bearing folks taking on trainees, at least over the last several months to a year. As of December 31st, We had 94 registered AMCs. And again, that number is consistently lower than we've seen over the course of the last 5 years. We had 128 at this time in 2019. And that was kind of a more or less steady decline here to the current number of 94. Now, I will have some additional licensing information just for context for you folks later related to our audits and applications and reciprocals and things like that. Just a summary of what happened over the course of the last year with licensing audits and things. But as of December 31st, these are the numbers for the agency, and that directly ties into what Paul was just talking about in terms of the board's budget and revenues and projected expenses and things. Are there any questions on our licensing report?
Chad, I have a question. Been looking at this for, gosh, I don't know how many years I've been on the board, but and I've watched these trends, and I'm wondering if it's too much. I have a few mortgage friends, but they actually have the amount of origination loans in the state of Oregon per quarter, and I wonder if you, just because this is for public input or information too, if it kind of track that, because we see a consolidation of AMCs and appraisers, if that trend line follows with originations of loans type of thing.
Loan volume, three graph lines that kind of yeah, I hear what you're saying. I can probably try to find access to that. If you have a line on overall more, well, Fannie and Freddie also do probably report those things as of end of year, but so that's not an impossibility. It will add a few more things onto my list of the to-do items. But I'm happy to look into a way to report that next board meeting if you like.
I think it's just interesting to watch a trend line if we start to kind of get nervous about, hey, what's going on with licensees and where things are going. If you see that, if you can kind of follow that trend line and see if we're out of balance of, I don't know, it's just something. I certainly don't want more on your plate, Chad, but no. If it's something that I could provide or easily enough, I'm happy to do it. Just
that wasn't the intent, Jeff. I'm sorry to make it seem that way. So
no.
And as far as an overall very, very rudimentary 10,000 foot view down report kind of a thing, given that I won't have any specific numbers, we don't collate and gather mortgage loan volumes, jumbo versus non-jumbo, what kind of borrower rating are we talking, those kinds of things. But overall numbers that are publicly available, I can incorporate those in with, as far as a conversation on, does this match with licensing trends? One thing I will say, though, is that I believe the prime rate is down lower than it's been for quite some time. I don't know. Again, I don't have a crystal ball and I don't work for these folks, but I believe the Fed doesn't have any immediate plans to raise rates up toward 5 again. And just my personal soapbox was that for a lot of people, it doesn't make any sense to refinance, at least in the residential side of things, for folks that bought anytime before really 2022 at this point. And so it's potential good news that interest rates are kind of hovering down below or around 4 or just above, that in terms of the folks that have had their mortgages longer, it's going to start making more sense to do those cash out refis for construction projects, for whatever it is that they're doing, because money is not quite as expensive as it was this time last year. So I don't know what 2025 is going to bring, but we're starting off quietly optimistic. Let me put it that way.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think we're probably ready to move on to the enforcement report.
Yes, sir. And that's me again. Okay. So again, these numbers are for the last quarter, which was October 1st through the end of December 31st, 2024. Last quarter, we closed 9 cases. Open cases as of the end of last year is 88. And again, that's the number that we're going to be looking to try and reduce here with getting active with this ASC assistance funds and things. As of December 31st, of those 88 cases, all of them were related to appraisal activity or allegations of related to appraisal activity. We have 0 AMC cases, which bodes well for AMCs staying in the lines and being conscientious of things. So of the 88 cases, we are still waiting for response from the respondent appraisers in 5 instances. 3 of those 88 cases are before you folks today for approval. 3 more are currently investigations that are in process that are hopefully going to be wrapping up here. I don't want to say January, but in the near future here, hopefully February-ish, so we'll have some more work to do on the enforcement committee side here in February. And of the remainder, we have 77 allegations that are still pending assignment to an investigator. Now, here's the number that most of us are concerned with. As of December 31st, 75 of our cases are over 1 year old. That number has been slowly creeping down over the course of the last few board meetings that we've been reporting, just because of some changes and some efficiencies we've put in place in terms of the investigation side of things, ways that we're handling cases or appraisers with multiple cases so that they get the information they need in more timely way. And that also assists us in condensing and dealing with that caseload. So of the 75 cases that are over a year old, 69 are still pending investigation or assignment to an investigator. All three of our cases that reported above that were in process investigations, all three of the ones that we're looking at right now are over that 12-month line. All three of the cases before you folks today, here coming up in the next section of the board meeting, all three of these cases are over a year old. So that's yet another dent in that number. That's a rolling number because every month that we close cases, there's a new month, and we've got cases come in year round. So as time goes on, we're knocking cases off, but additional cases are aging out of that 12-month time frame. So getting ahead of that curve is really where we're hopefully headed over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. Let's see. I believe that's the entirety of the enforcement report. If you folks have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
I'm liking the trend line, getting it down. So nice job.
Little by little. Dan and Danny are, I don't know that I see them on the meeting anymore, but Dan and Danny are working very, very hard. We all are, but they're both very cognizant of what's happening and where we need to go. So they deserve a lot of appreciation and kudos for all their hard work.
For sure. Looks like then, Chad, I guess we're gonna go ahead and move on to the approval of the board orders.
We are. That would be back to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's back up to me. So we're gonna vote on three corrective action agreements, but one is paired together. So I'll just read those together if we're ready to vote on those. For the corrective action agreement, 20-2455 and 22-2531, both were for education. Need to ask for a vote on that for approval.
A motion to approve, and then a second and a vote.
Apologies for that. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
All right, Kathy. And
A second.
And Annie with the second. Okay, Jeff?
Yes.
Lori? Oh, you're
Sorry
muted,
about
Lori.
that. Muted. Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Okay. For a second agreement, case number 21-2476. The action is for education. I hear a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
With Lori with the motion.
It's Jeff. I'll second.
And Jeff with the second. Okay. Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Owen?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we're going to move on to the administrator's report, and I will send that back to you, sir. Chad?
Thank you, sir. All right, so I'm going down to the bottom of our little reference packet here. This is something that we started doing a couple of years ago here. Actually, Jeff, at your suggestion here, was a summary of our audit and licensing, essentially, activities for new licensure over the course of the last 12 months. So all of this is activity that occurred between January 1 and December 31 of last year. Last year, we did a total of 7 supervising appraiser audits, which is somewhat lower than we've seen in previous years as kind of the trend goes. I'm sorry, we did 9 total audits. The good number, though, is that 7 of those folks were approved to be supervisors. So 7 new folks are endorsed and are out there with assistants that are being trained. So the next numbers are going to be relevant as well. New appraiser assistant registrations. Even though we only had 7 new supervisors, we had 17 new assistants come on last year and register with the board. We had 50 assistants renew their registration. So they're at some point in their 12 to 18-month licensing journey for experience gathering. So a total of 67 registered assistants, which matches back up to that licensing report number that was earlier. Audits for new licensees in 2024. We did 26 total audits, and of those 26, again, 24 were approved for the exam. So that shows that our supervisors are doing a service to our new registered assistants, and we've had very little issue in terms of folks not meeting minimum standards with those audits over the course of last year. Of the 24 that were approved for their exams, 2 were state licensed appraisers, which again kind of speaks to that number of declining number of state licensed appraisers overall. 19 of the approved exams were for certified residential appraisers, and 3 were certified general appraisers. Let's see. New licenses issued last year, ending in 2024, via the audit and exam process. Now, this doesn't include reciprocals and things, but we issued 26 new licenses. Now, that number is different than the total number of people that were approved via the audit, but it also includes 7 folks from 2023 that were approved around the end of the year in 2023 that Pearson View is our exam proctor, and they got them scheduled at some point in 2024. So those are kind of a 7 carryover. So of the 24 that we audited and approved last year, let's see, it looks like 19 of those have taken and passed their exams. New licenses issued via reciprocity. This would be folks from other states that obtain a reciprocal license in Oregon based on that credential. 73 new reciprocal licenses. These are not renewed. These are new reciprocal licenses. 1 of those was a state licensed appraiser. 14 were certified residential appraisers probably from neighboring states. And here's the big number is 58 certified general appraisers that reciprocated into Oregon last year.
Hey, Chad, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you guys keep stats on where those 58 are coming from? Are they just
From
Washington or something like
state
that?
to state. I can look into that if needed, but no, the fact that we all abide by the ASC criteria means that we honor all 50 states and a couple territories, I believe, that follow USPAP in terms of our reciprocal agreements. We can, though, go in to run reports and things from the database on our side and see. That's how we got the number of new reciprocals. We could, in a low-tech way, go through that list of 58. It's not that long of a list, but I can see which state we based that license on if we go into their application package itself.
I'm not looking to add any more work to your workload. I was just kind of wondering if you guys kept track of that kind of stuff, because I'd be kind of curious to know where
historically I can tell you that
it's to do with the fact that the market is so slow, and a lot of these certified generals are coming looking for work in other places. I was just wondering if there's, like, the majority are coming from Washington or something like that to hit the Portland market or something. So no big deal.
That's probably actually a pretty safe assumption. I would imagine that the majority of those reciprocals are border states. So Washington, Idaho, California. The truth is Montana's not that far of a drive if you're hungry. It's only about 7 hours away. So, well, I guess Paul can speak to that. He drives that road all the time. But yeah, it's most likely, at least historically, it's been the bordering states that we get reciprocal applications from, and vice versa. Oregon reciprocates out to those Idaho, Washington, California is the majority of where we see letters of good standing, requests for letters of good standing coming from, is our border states as well. Any other questions on the summary of our audit activity and new licensure?
Sorry, I had my hand up. I'll put it down now.
I'm sorry, Annie.
That's okay. I was wondering, it was just to follow up on what Julie was asking. I'm wondering, this is just a speculation, but there was that huge RFP out of Washington County for right-of-way services, and it was massive. The response to it was massive, and there were a lot of outfits that were out of state that were applying to that. I mean, I saw stuff on that RFP from like Missouri and yeah, crazy states, Texas. So I don't know. This is just speculation, but I wonder, Julie, if that might be part of it. That RFP was a kind of a tidal wave.
Like companies from Missouri and Texas were applying for that job?
Yeah, appraisal firms. You know.
Wow. Okay.
Kind of like the CBRE type outfits.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know, Owen, if your appraisal firm responded to that RFP, but it was huge. So I wonder if it was that. I don't know. And they just sent out all the contracts for that. So all the everybody that was approved for that RFP are now under contract. So that might explain part of it. It's just I just wanted to throw that out there.
That would explain the drastic difference in those reciprocal numbers. Yeah.
That's a large number.
Comparatively, in terms of the number of certified residential, it's like 15 other licensure, right, and 58. So that's
huge. Yeah. Well, it looks like you have the floor for most of this, but we can just go through one item.
I'm trying to get back up to our agenda here. So, and I'm just going to kind of freeform the rest of this administrator's report here. So as far as the other updates I wanted to give you folks, these are the reasons why we don't have that policy that I was talking about with Scott earlier about PREA and audits and maintaining our board's consistent policy and process for licensure forward. These other things are what essentially took the last 2-ish months of the year. And we had to pivot very quickly on our office optimization. That was actually initiated because we were sharing our encrypted network with another agency that then decided to relocate. And we were not informed formally of that at all until our friends over at DAS told us, hey, you guys are about to lose your connection. Are you aware of that? So that was oh no, let's go fix this right now. So that in terms of the state wheels turning, that took a good chunk of time. So as far as the optimization, we are now on our own encrypted network switch to the state network. That was a piece that we changed. We are now, in terms of the office footprint, we're saving a significant sum on our office lease because that back portion of the office where Paul and I and Dan and Tanny's offices were, that's no longer ours. We put a wall up and had management. We've now got onto a new lease with our existing place that is significantly smaller but more efficient. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think the majority of staff are going to notice a huge difference in terms of the functionality of the office. You folks probably won't at all because most of you don't go back to the very back end anyway. But the bottom line being that was just something that we got a great deal on the office space when originally the lease was signed. I think it was 2017 or something like that. And at that point, the state wasn't really working remotely, or at least this board was not working remotely at all. We needed all of that space. Well, fast forward, this many years and things change. COVID happened. We learned how to work hybrid schedules and or remotely. And now that we've got staff in the office 4 out of 5 days a week, but the majority of us only work 1 day a week in the office, which has been really helpful for mental health, to be quite honest with you. I think at least on my end. I can't speak for anybody else, but that was a big piece of what we were doing at the end of the last year was downsizing, and that comes with its own set of challenges because there's state equipment that has to get turned back in. We had excess office equipment that they have a certain process to go through to get it back to them or decide it's not valuable and jettison. That is the side of things that we're still finishing up and why we're actually having a fully remote meeting today. The boardroom is currently being used to store 4 offices worth of desks and file cabinets and things that we're no longer needing because the other thing that we've been doing over the course of the last year is it started in 2023, taking all of our paper records digital, scanning them, getting them into PDF or other, digital format, getting them off paper form so we don't have to pay the archives for a physical storage fee. We're just now dealing with our database and our data that's at the state, they're custodians of our data. So that's an additional bit of savings that we'll probably look at moving forward. It's not going to be an immediate, we've got the expense we do for our archives bills, but our archive bill is not going to continue going up because we're not sending anything else there paper-wise. Let's see, expense reductions. We have, as of very recently, and this is relevant to any members of the public on the meeting today, we saw such little use of our office landline over the course of the last 4 years since 2020, because the majority of us are working remotely most of the time, and our cell phones have generally been the best way to reach all of us anyway. We were looking at that office landline going, this is a significant expense through Comcast that is ringing maybe once a month with a relevant phone call for anybody in terms of a voicemail. Or actual phone call that people were taking. So given the amount of use that our cell phones were getting, and that it's a duplicate of the same technology that our landline is, I was briefly looking at using soft phones that would maintain that office number through our cell phones, basically through a virtual node. I'm not a tech guy, so I don't understand how it works, but it's basically the same phone number, but on a web application that would then ring through the phone. That process, again, took a little bit too long. And in the process of working through that, I realized that we really don't need it if we've got cell phones and we're available essentially 24/7. Those things are on everybody's hip. There's really no need for a physical office line. We can re-examine that later on if there's a bunch of feedback that indicates otherwise. But as of right now, it was close to $700 a month that we really don't need to spend. On top of the cell phones from Verizon. So that was another change that we made. So as of today, folks, do not call the previous office number. Call any of us on our mobile numbers. All of our mobile numbers, our staff's mobile numbers, contact information, as well as our email addresses are available on our website at www.aclboregon.org. Just for the record, so everybody's aware of that and has that for the future. That essentially, I'm not sure if I'm missing anything, Paul, from our office optimization stuff. There have been a number of changes. We switched over to a new internet provider that's going to be saving us some money. There were just a lot of different minor changes that we were able to make after looking at what we're doing and how we're doing it. Nothing is earth-shattering or massively savings other than the office footprint savings. But all of those little things are adding up. In terms of our overall expenses, I'm cutting where we can so that we don't have to cut in places that are critical, at least at this point. The other change that we're working on, and we have been actually for a while, our web hosting company and developer has actually been working on developing an online interface on that same website, aclboregon.org, so that you folks can renew and apply and submit documentation via an online portal, as opposed to the current methodology of go to our website, download the PDF form, fill out the PDF form, email the form to staff. All of those, it's not that complicated, but again, it's the standard of business has kind of changed over the last 5 years. And I thought it would be beneficial to everybody, including myself as a licensee, to not have to go through the older, lower tech option of attaching a photo with tape to a form and scanning that form and sending it back to us. So that process is actually, we're still in beta testing right now. The developer has gotten us all of the modules back. We're currently having staff run through and do use cases just to identify any problems, anything that needs changing, anything that's not clear from the customer facing side. Just to make sure that that's easy to use and it's not incomprehensible and it functions the way that we want it to. And so those things, to work those little minor issues out, those take some time. We're going to continue to use the old process with the PDF forms until that is entirely active and vetted. That will probably be sometime in the next month, couple of months at most, that we should be able to get feedback back to our developer and have that go live. It's not live yet on the website. So the other thing I wanted to update is the subcommittee grant progress. Now, you all know that we've received the award funds toward the end of last year. It was, I believe, September announcement, and then we had a few things we had to do on our end, and then through October. So at this point, we released, and it's still out on the website. I'm not sure if it's still active on the website or not. It shouldn't be. we released a request for proposals, an RFP, related to our proposed compliance and enforcement support project, which relates to using those grant funds to help the board reduce the number of cases over 12 months old and overall reduce the number of cases in general, as well as to give us some assistance in other areas of compliance that we might need, vetting new cases that come in to determine whether or not we want to look further into things, assisting just like you folks have been with the audit process for new licensees. I don't know how much of that we'll have these folks doing, but that's another way we can use these SARAS grant funds is to help on the licensing and that compliance side of our activities. So as of right now, the RFP was opened. It's closed. We're in the process of reviewing the proposals that we received, and that deadline or the window for reviewing those will continue through the end of this month. And then shortly after the start of February, we'll make an announcement after we land on an award for the contracting firm that best fits the needs of the board here.
Chad, can I ask a quick question on that?
Absolutely.
How many applications did you get for that RFP?
Less than I had hoped, but the two that we did receive are pretty detailed and are from folks that have significant amounts of experience in the enforcement world. Both of the applicants that sent in proposals one of them has decades upon decades of experience in the compliance world. The other has a good number of years and a lot of very complex work under their belt. So I don't have a preference at current, but we'll be reviewing those applications just to see which one in particular is most suitable for the board as far as cost, services proposed, those kinds of things.
And you're only going to be awarding it to one of the two.
In generally speaking, unless there's something significant that happens with that contracting firm during the process, the plan is to award it to one. The reasoning for that, I know that's putting eggs into one basket, but the reasoning for that is so that we don't have to use our staff time quite so heavily training outside, because that could take several months to get those folks up to speed in terms of it's not just USPAP that we look at, it's administrative rule, it's Oregon revised statute, and how all three of those interplay is essentially what all of us, the investigators and myself, do all day long. My training as an investigator, I want to say it took most of 2019, but there again, that was coming from a forensic appraisal background and things like that. But both of these firms have similar past experience as an investigator or similar to an investigator forensic reviewing, those kinds of things, compliance consulting. So yeah, we'll be awarding it to one unless it looks like that didn't work out very well. If we're not getting results that we're anticipating, in that case, then we'll probably look at that second contract, that second proposal, and potentially engage another party. But as of right now, the plan is just for one. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then last but not least, I did want to just update you folks really quickly. I know that as board members, a lot of you got repetitive emails last year about the required DAS trainings and take this and take that, and hey, you didn't finish this, and continuing to get those emails in error. As of now, we've turned over a new year. So all of those, I don't believe the new board member trainings are relevant, but there are those annual 2025 trainings that if you go into your Workday account, under the learning section, those should populate. You've got 12 months. We're very early in the process. So I just wanted to make the announcement that now that the year is turned over, it is a new year, and we do have, and staff included, we have 2 new trainings each that take about 30 minutes apiece, but those are available in Workday. And if anybody has any trouble getting to them, finding them, getting into Workday, feel free to reach out to me directly and I can help. And that pretty well covers my administrator's report for the end of 2024, folks. If you have any questions for me, I'm open and happy to answer them.
Well, that'll move us to our general discussion then, I guess, huh? Kind of a free-for-all. I was looking,
Jeff,
it seems like
I'm so sorry. Is there any chance that I could request a 5-minute recess?
Oh, please. Do I need to make a motion to pause?
That would be a motion and a vote, yes.
I'd like to make a motion for a 5-minute recess, please. Is there a motion to approve?
A motion.
Kathy with the motion. And
Jeff,
Jeff
I'll
with the second. All right. Jeff.
Let's take a 5-minute break.
We need to vote on that real quick. Jeff?
Oh, Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
and Ed.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, folks. Just
Got.
did everybody leave? Oh,
I know
20.
everybody. Not
It's a
sure
whole
what
bunch
happened.
of
Everybody
cameras.
just turned off their cameras.
Apparently, I was not the only
So we
one.
turn off our cameras. It minimizes the window. Is all.
Got it. Got it. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, that was. I appreciate the leeway. I needed that 5 minutes.
Do we?
We
I
would
don't know
need
if
to
we,
yeah, we'll need to call the meeting back, or you will need to call the meeting back to order, and then we'll do an attendance for the second.
okay, let's do that. Okay, the
State
time is
time.
not. Yeah, the time is 9:49. Calling the meeting back to order. So we need to do a roll call. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Jeff. Yes, Jeff,
I'm here.
Lori,
Here.
Kathy,
Here.
Annie,
Here.
Julie,
Here.
Owen,
Here.
and Ed.
Here.
All right, quorum is verified.
All right. Well, we're back to it. We're back to the general discussion. I just had a thought. I know it's a new year, and there's different places that there's going to be appraisal summits and expos and some big changes coming down the pike with people that do Fannie Mae work. But don't know if that's anything that's any interest to anybody. But I'm planning on going. But I'm going to go to a Vegas one. But I did have a question about the board as far as traveling. If we want to do something at some point in a city or a town that's we don't usually go to for do a lunch and have something, is that any interest or appetite for that later on in the year for anybody?
Jeff,
Sure.
can I have just a quick piece of input? Ordinarily, I would say that that's an amazingly good idea. Budget wise, we reimburse every single one of you for a motel room, travel costs, expenses. That can tend to cost as much as sending me to Arrow. So I would say there would be a choice. I'm not saying that's not a thing that can happen, but I would say there would be a choice there. A board meeting in another part of the state, or one of the staff goes to the Association of Regulatory Officials conference.
Oh,
So it's, and again, both of those have value. So the truth of the matter is, public interaction has significant value for the board as well. Just while you guys are having that discussion and conversation.
yeah, I know. Is it within 50 miles though? It's not paid or something like that of your location or no?
That's an accounting question. I'm not entirely sure. That's very possible. Well, no, I don't know. You check in with Paul on that. He may have jumped off the meeting just because he's not feeling great today.
Okay.
Check in, follow up with Paul on that. I know that we've reimbursed board members for travel to the office in the past.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just
But
curious.
you're right. It might be 50 miles because I think our former coastal member was the only one that we had reimbursed.
Mm-hmm. It was just a curiosity thing. I mean, I think we're doing a great job. Look at me. No, I think that things are going good. I just don't know if it's beneficial or not to have in different areas of the state at all, if it's worth it. But certainly, you going or an administrative person going to Arrow can provide more significant. I can't think of the word success, but I'm saying beneficial for the money spent versus maybe
it does tend to keep us updated on things that are changing at the federal level and things like that.
Sure.
Staff, whether it's myself or somebody else from the board, networking with the other 50 states that do this, because in terms of regulatory professions, there I believe are about 50 people in the country that have my job, and roughly double that in terms of investigators. So as far as a population of 360 whatever million, not a huge group of folks. So putting us all in the same place, sometimes it doesn't have a ton of benefit if we're in a year that's pretty stagnant or things aren't changing. Where we've had new topics, new concepts, things changing over the course of the last 2 years, it's probably not the worst idea to maintain that. I will be attending the Spring Arrow, which is a virtual conference. So that's another place that I can get that information. Just again, as you folks decide or have a conversation on travel and that kind of stuff.
Chad, that is something that I wanted to mention is that the Arrow conference is virtual in the spring. So that's going to be very helpful for attendance. I did actually attend Arrow in October, and not a ton to report, but again, every time you have the opportunity to connect with other regulators, it's absolutely beneficial. So maybe this would give other folks the opportunity to participate that haven't been to Arrow. I don't know that the board will be able to pay for it, but yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile.
And there is precedent, just so you're all aware, in the past, instead of sending the administrator, sending the board chair. Instead of sending the administrator or the chair, sending an investigator and the attorney, if the attorney was new. I've met lots of different folks from the board, various boards and licensing agencies, new to the profession, new to the regulatory, side of things, attending that meeting. New folks tend to get a lot out of it just because they do a really good job of taking everybody under their wing, so to speak. In terms of the new folks, it's a very small, it's not a small room, but it's a small, like I said, comparatively small group of folks that spend years around each other. So the new faces when they're there, and they're very welcoming. They do tend to do a great job of, at least in terms of the state support, helping us understand what's going on there and what we need to pay attention to and those kinds of things. But again, traveling to, say, Eastern Oregon to make the board meeting available to folks over there and inform people about the appraisal profession that might not have had that exposure otherwise also has significant value.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Sounds like it's kind of a quiet day. Is there any other discussion or anything that any of the board members, or Raul is a man of many words, I can see, but is there anybody that has anything else that they'd like to add from the board?
The only one thing, I ran a quick pivot table while we were discussing, and I think I have an answer to Julie's question about where the certified residential appraisers are coming from over the past year. Most of them are from California. 18 of them were from California. Only 8 were Oregon. Yeah.
General appraisers, are you talking about?
Yeah, certified general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I think we're at that time then, if we don't have any more discussion, that we're going to go ahead and call this a meeting for adjournment. Is there anything, Chad, before I do that?
The motion,
No,
and
no, I know
then
that.
the
But anything
second,
from you?
and then just remember to state the time at the end of the meeting. You don't
Sure.
really have to do that. I've got a timer, but it helps for the record.
Yeah, no problem. Well, then I'm going to motion for adjournment of the meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to adjourn.
Lori with the motion,
I'll second.
Kathy with the second. Jeff,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Owen,
Yes.
and Ed.
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
Well, hey, thank you, everybody. The time is 9:57, and I believe we are adjourned.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
everybody.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.